welcome back to the 20-something podcast. Before we get started, this is actually our last episode for a little while. We are going on tour to Australia, so we will be back at some point because I've absolutely loved doing this. But for now, we are taking a little break. So thank you so much to everyone who has listened and watched and left comments and followed our journey, because it has been amazing the last few months. But for now, we've got one more incredible episode. So welcome, Lucy, to the 20-something podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm good. I have to start by apologising to your listeners. I don't normally sound like this. I have come down with a cold typically 2 days before I'm coming on a podcast.
Oh, you sound fine. I didn't even notice.
No, I think I sound quite congested. But yeah, I'm really excited to be here. So thanks for having me.
That's all right. So I thought Lucy would be a really amazing guest because she's in the fitness space. We've had a few kind of fitness people, but I think there's so much that we can learn. And also you run your own coaching business and all of that. So yeah, do you just want to give a little overview of who you are? Give an intro to yourself.
Where to start? So my name's Lucy, obviously. I am 27 and I have been online coaching for about 4 years, but running my own business for 3 years, which is amazing. Absolutely love it. But definitely comes with its challenges. What else do you want to know? There's quite a lot, I guess.
So I normally ask my guests just to go back to the beginning and just talk us through how you got to where you are now. How did you get into coaching? Just give us an overview of your 20s so far.
20s, wow, okay, where to start? So I went to university in Bath, and it was very much kind of just, I guess, decided that I would go to uni. Both my older sisters went to uni. It was kind of just the natural thing to go to uni. Although I was a bit lost, I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I really enjoyed psychology at school, so I just decided to do psychology. Sounds terrible. You shouldn't really. They always say you shouldn't go to uni unless you know exactly what you want to do. But yeah, I went to uni and did psychology. Absolutely loved it. Had the best 3 years of my life. And then when I graduated, that was 2019, and I was a little bit lost. It took me ages to find a job. You think when you graduate, you're going to get a job straight away. It's going to be so easy, but it was really difficult to find a job. So I eventually found a job at this startup company, completely random. It was a non-alcoholic spirit startup company. There was about 3 of them there at the time. So I think I was the 4th employee. And it was kind of one of those where you do a little bit of everything, as you do in a startup. So I was doing a little bit of sales, a little bit of events. It was mainly events. I was trying to sell this product. I'd never worked in sales really before. And they were just try and sell this non-alcoholic spirit, please. So I did that from when I graduated in 2019 till about the March of 2020. And then lockdown hit. And then I found myself in a position that I didn't ever think I'd be in. I got made redundant because it was such a small company, but it was very sudden. I wasn't expecting it. But obviously all the bars and the restaurants shut. All the events we had planned for the whole year had been cancelled. I think everyone just panicked. So the founder of the company just let myself and the guy that was above me go. And that was that. There was not really much discussion about it. It was just, I can't have you here anymore. There's not a job for you. So we were let go. And yeah, so I'm sort of there. I've just got my first job out of university, and then I'm made redundant, and I'm sort of there I have no idea what I want to do with my life. And I am very much someone that needs a purpose. So I did struggle not having anywhere to go or knowing what to do. A lot of companies weren't hiring as well because everyone was trying to figure out what on earth was going on in this lockdown. So I got actually into quite a dark place at that point because I was just what am I going to do with my life? And then I sort of had a bit of time to think, and I thought, well, I love the gym. I've always loved the gym. It's a passion of mine. Maybe I spend the summer doing a personal training qualification. I've got nothing else to do, so I may as well give it a go. So I did that. I spent, it's an online course. Obviously, it was lockdown, but I spent all day, every day doing it. So I managed to finish it pretty quickly. And then completely out of the blue, I didn't actually really intend, I didn't know what I was going to do with this qualification. I never thought I'm going to go and work on a gym floor. That just wasn't something that I wanted. I just thought it'll be a good way to spend my time and it might be of interest to me one day. Anyway, then out of the blue, this online coach reached out to me on social media and said, oh, I've seen that you've just completed your personal training qualification. I'm an online coach and I've got too many clients. I need help. Would you be interested in a job? Like completely out of the blue. I couldn't believe it. So we met up, we got on like a house on fire. She hired me and yeah, we just sort of went on this crazy journey. I mean, it just took off overnight. Like it was all her really. She had a very big following on social media and yeah, so then I kind of eventually became the head coach of her company where I was helping coaching the other coaches whilst also coaching my own clients. And it was amazing. Like I learned everything there. It was my first I didn't even know what online coaching was at this point. So she really gave me a chance and it was amazing. But I said to her from day dot, just FYI, I've always wanted to work for myself. I've always wanted my own business. So I did kind of tell her that I probably wouldn't be there forever. So about 8 months of doing that, this was all still through lockdown. Obviously, we were coming in and out of lockdowns, but I think that's when online coaching really took off. Yeah, because people couldn't go to the gym, obviously. So I was there for a while, and then I kind of got to the point where it wasn't really working for me anymore. It wasn't the kind of company that I went into. It was very different. And it was kind of time for me to go on my own. So I just took the leap and went out on my own. And I've been doing that ever since. So here we are. Yeah. Wow. It's crazy. I honestly never ever thought I'd be here. Yeah. It's crazy.
I love hearing that. I love hearing how people have like got to where they are because there's always such different answers.
Yeah.
Like,
it's fascinating.
We've had people on here who've been teachers, people who have done like all other different jobs and have then got to where they are. And I think that's what I'm trying to show is like if you're in your 20s now at the beginning, at the end, and you're thinking what the hell am I doing, I don't know what I'm doing, like you actually never know when it can change.
My gosh, no. When I graduated uni, I don't think I've ever been so lost in my whole life. I had no idea what I wanted to do, or it's just such a minefield, like looking for random jobs. And I honestly, if lockdown hadn't have happened, I have no idea where I'd be right now. I don't know if I'd still be working for that company. Would I be in sales? Something I never in a million years thought I'd be doing. And that job as well, that first job I got was great. You know, I did learn a lot and I actually built a lot of confidence because I had to just walk into a bar and try and sell this product that I didn't even really know much about. I would just like introduce myself and start selling this thing. But I was traveling in and out of London like every day. Wherever the event was, I had to be there. So some days I was in London, some days I was in Bristol, Bath, like wherever I was. And it was exhausting. And I knew it wasn't what I wanted to do, but I didn't know what else to do. So yeah, it's a hard one to say because I know lockdown was so hard for so many people, but I don't want to say it was the best thing that ever happened to me, but it was. Yeah. I'm I feel really bad saying that because it was the worst time for so many people, but I just don't know where my life would be if we hadn't had that lockdown.
Yeah, well, you're not the first person on this podcast to say that. I think 5 or 6 of my guests have had the same experience where, they feel awful saying it. And obviously we know it was such a terrible time and people are still kind of living from that experience of what happened. But for a lot of people, it was a real game changer and a real turning point. So you're not the first to say that. And it's so interesting because I think in our 20s, like I feel myself, so much of my 20s was lost to that period.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I went into 2020 being 24, 25 and I came out of COVID being like 28 and I was like, where did those years go?
I know.
Like what happened?
Yeah.
And it was such like a pivotal moment. And I think there's so much discussion around like obviously young people who were at school, like children, teenagers, whatever, doing their GCSEs, and like it had such a big effect on them. But I think even for every generation it had an effect, and for 100%. Ours especially, like that 20-something people, it's had a huge impact because there's like a huge chunk of time that's gone.
And especially that time when you're, in my case, graduating university and trying to go out into the world and figure out who you are and what you're going to do with your life, to then just be told, actually, no, you can't. Like, you just got to stay in. And like, my partner at the time, luckily, was in a very big company. So he got furloughed for, I think he was off for about 2 weeks in the whole lockdown. So luckily we had, you know, a stable income and things like that. But I think for a lot of people, it just gave them time to either evaluate, you know, what they're doing and where they are in their life. Yeah. Or in my case, it got forced upon me, but thank God, because would I have made that leap without it? I don't know. We'll never know now.
Yeah, exactly. It's so interesting. But for someone who, obviously, hopefully COVID never happens again, but for someone in that position now where they're thinking like, should I take this leap, or I don't really know what to do, what advice would you give to someone?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I think if you are passionate about something, and I think there's something in calculated risk. I wouldn't sit here and just say, just go for it. I mean, I would say that, but obviously be smart. Don't do that if you haven't got some funds to keep you secure if it doesn't work out, or, you know, you're going to be in a period while you're starting things up, you're going to need money. For example, in my case, I knew I was going to work for myself. So I created an Instagram account that was all about fitness, because I thought to myself, not only are we in lockdown, but how do you get clients these days? Like, you don't really just, and you can walk in and start like leafleting, but I just didn't really know how I was supposed to get online clients. So it made sense to me to start an online account and sort of get myself out there a bit. So while I was doing that online coaching job, I started my social media. It was mine. I could do what I wanted with it. And in my head, I was like, I need to get this account to a certain point where I feel it's safe to kind of take the risk. So yes, it's a risk, but it was sort of a calculated risk. I saved up some money and I got the followers. Not that it's all about followers, but I did get it to a point where I thought, I've got a bit of a community here. I've got people that might actually want to work with me when I announce that I'm going to go on my own. So yeah, I would say, obviously, make sure you've got something to support you if it doesn't work out. But I know it's cliche, but I would genuinely say life is so short. Don't spend it doing something you don't love. I feel like we're in this like new, like amazing world where like you can do anything. Like when I told my parents I was going to do online coaching, they didn't get it at all. Like, my parents are amazing. They both work for themselves, and my mum and my stepdad. They've always been my role models, and I've always wanted to work for myself because of them. But they didn't get it at all. They thought it was a pyramid scheme, and they were like warning me off of it. And now they can't believe what I'm doing. And my stepdad says to me all the time, I talk about you in some of my board meetings and your job and the way that you work and the way it works, because he had absolutely no idea. They just didn't get it. But there's all these new crazy jobs out there. You can do a podcast for a living. You can be a content creator. You can work online and work anywhere in the world. It's just having the courage to just do it, I think, which is scary. Obviously, it's scary. But I personally would rather try something and it doesn't work out than to always wonder what if. I don't think I could live with myself always thinking, oh, I wonder what would have happened if I'd tried that. That's not a place you want to be in. Yeah,
it's so true, because it is scary to think, oh, I'll just take that leap, or what if it doesn't work out? But it's like that classic saying of like, well, it's worse to like stay where you are than to actually try and give it a go. And if you fail, you fail, but you go again.
Yeah, and at least you can say you tried.
Yeah, and it's just worse to constantly be where you are and be unhappy or not be fulfilled in what you're doing.
100%. And a quote that I saw recently that I really love, I have a little notes page on my phone with all my favourite quotes. And one of them is, the biggest risk is not taking a risk. Whether you're in a job right now and you're thinking of going for a different job or a different role, or you're working and you want to go work for yourself, like I agree. I think you should take a risk sometimes.
Yeah, no, it's so true. And I wanted to dive into a little bit then about you being your own boss, working for yourself. So talk us through like what exactly you do.
So I basically have a online fitness coaching company. I have an app. So essentially, women, it is just females at the moment. They inquire via usually social media is where I get most of my clients from. They fill in a pre-application form on my website. We have a phone call and we basically discuss their goals, whatever it is they're looking to achieve, make sure that it's a good fit for us to work together. And then I onboard them. So I create completely tailor-made programs. So you get a training program, nutrition support, one-to-one messaging with me. There's loads. We've got a community WhatsApp group. We're also doing bi-weekly webinars as well, more on the mental health side of things. That's a big one for me. So my coaching is very, I like to say, personalised. I really do. I don't take on too many clients. I try to keep it, well, definitely manageable, but a little bit smaller so that I can really give that support and attention to each and every client. And, you know, if a client comes to me and says, I'm really struggling with this, I say, let's hop on a phone call and let's talk about this in a bit more detail. And yeah, just really kind of putting myself in the client's shoes and trying to create a plan for them that works and that is sustainable and, dare I say, enjoyable. I think people think, you know, to lose body fat or whatever your goal is, you have to be miserable the whole time. Yeah. We've kind of grown up with this diet culture that's really unsustainable and unhealthy. So I'm trying to get them to see it in a different way, that we can enjoy exercise. We can actually eat the foods that we love and still lose body fat if that is the goal. We don't have to give up all our favourite foods. Carbs aren't the enemy. You know, that sort of thing. The scale isn't necessarily something to fear, but also instilling body confidence and all-round physical and mental well-being. And that's what we try to do with the webinars. They're hosted by a therapist who I've brought on. So we do things like stress management techniques, body confidence and building self-esteem. So all sorts of different things. It's a very, I like to say, holistic, kind of well-rounded approach to achieving your goals, your fitness goals.
Yeah. And what is it like then working for yourself? You obviously had that experience of the first job that you had, and like, how does it compare?
God, it doesn't. Like, it's amazing. I am completely free to do whatever I want, whenever I want, basically. And that comes with good and bad. I don't have to be anywhere at a certain time. I don't have to wear anything in particular. I could work in my pajamas if I wanted to. I don't. But no, it's absolutely amazing. Like today, for example, I did a little bit of work on the way up because my partner drove, but it's all on my own terms. I do my own hours. I probably shouldn't admit this, but some days I work 3 hours. Some days I work 10 hours. Like, it's completely dependent on what I want to do, and I can do it from anywhere in the world. I say to my partner all the time, I genuinely don't think I could do a 9 till 5. I just don't think I could. I would find it so difficult to have to be somewhere at a certain time. And I take my hat off to people who, you know, do a 9 till 5 and then come home and go to the gym, and I go in the middle of the day because I can. So it's that flexibility and the freedom. That's just the most amazing part of it all. But then obviously with that comes self-discipline. Like, you have to be very disciplined to work for yourself. It's not for everyone. And I have struggled with it. Like, it's so many people sort of look at what I do and they're not jealous, but they do say, oh, I'm so jealous. I would love to be able to do that. It looks amazing what you do. And it is, don't get me wrong, it is amazing, but it's also hard. Like, people don't see what goes on behind closed doors. They don't know that you're wearing the marketing hat, the accounting hat, the coaching hat, and then when someone cancels or someone's horrible to you, you then got to deal with that as well. You know, I don't have anyone to just be like, oh, someone wants to cancel, can you deal with that? I have to take that on. I have really good Trustpilot reviews, but I had a really horrible one the other day, and it got to me for like days. This random person said, like, was commenting on my body, and it was horrible. So you take on everything, you feel everything, and I am my brand, probably too much so. I'm the face of it. It is me. So I know I'm quite sensitive, actually. So you have to have quite a tough skin.
Yeah.
And yeah, you got to be disciplined. Yeah. You got to make sure that even though you don't have to be somewhere at a certain time and you've got no one checking in on you, that you do get up and get out if that is what you want to do. Otherwise it can get away from you.
So how do you feel like you've kind of built up that discipline then? Because obviously going from a 9 to 5 then to lockdown, how have you, like, what steps have you taken?
Well, I'd say I've always been quite a disciplined person. If I think back to myself at school, my mum I was quite like my sister, but my mum used to come over and say, "Oh gosh, girls, take a break from studying. Come on, we're going out for dinner or something." And we'd be like, "No, mum, we have to revise. We've got a test tomorrow." We've always been, me and my sister, just quite, we know we have to work that little bit harder. Maybe we weren't the students that could just turn up to a test and get an A without trying. You know those people? I'd love to be one of those people.
Me too.
But I'm not one of those people at all. I've really had to, in school, I loved school, but I really had to study to do well. So I think I've always been quite disciplined. And, my mum never had to say to me, "Have you done your homework?" or "Have you done this? Have you done that?" Not to make it too deep, but my parents divorced when I was really young, and I had to, have a bag packed to be there or to be there. And my life was quite structured. You're there for 2 days, then you're there for 2 days, and then you swap. So I don't know if that sort of made me quite a disciplined person, and I like structure. And so when I sort of went out on my own, it was very important to me that I kept some sort of routine. And I worked from home for a long time, and I realised that didn't actually work for me very well. You think it's amazing. You've got this luxury to work from home and, cook your own food and have a break whenever you want, sit on the sofa and do a little bit of work if you want. And that's great sometimes. But for me, doing that 5 days a week was not good for me at all. It really wasn't good for my mental health. I really thrive off of being around other people. That really motivates me. Especially at the moment, it is just me in my team. That's kind of how I want it. And that can be very isolating. So I really do try to get up at the same time every day. I work at a co-working space, so with other self-employed people. So I make sure I go there 3-4 times a week. Even though it's flexible, I might only be there for 3 hours in the morning, and then I might spend the rest of the day at home. I've got up and I've got out, and I've surrounded myself with other people. That's been really important for me.
Yeah, no, that's so true, because I can imagine, like, I worked at home a lot myself as well, and you do have to have that discipline. So I think that it's this whole like battle, isn't it, of people wanting to go back to the office but potentially not wanting to, and actually do we thrive from being around people? And I think if you're self-employed and you see so and so working on this, it gives you that little push to, what are they doing?
Absolutely.
Maybe I can chat to them about that. It might be a different industry, but it could still be something that they've done on social that you've seen. Or
and you get tips from people about different things, or just people that have been running their own business for longer than you have. They have really good advice for you. But I do kind of think maybe there's two different types of people. I know people during lockdown who were working from home, but the typical they used to openly say I would just go out, I wiggle my mouse for a bit, or I used to lean something on the mouse so that it would look like I was online. Yeah. That for me, oh my gosh, I could just never. Unless maybe I think maybe if you don't love what you do, that's maybe more not acceptable, but you don't care as much. But I've just never been that type of person. I always want to do the best at whatever I'm doing. And again, that comes with its downfalls, because I put a lot of pressure on myself to be the best I can be. I'll have a good day at work, but I'll come home and go, oh, but maybe I could have done a bit more, or I feel a bit guilty because I didn't manage to get that done. So I think it's kind of hardwired, and that's the type of person I am. Yeah. But there are definitely days where it's too easy to just stay at home and maybe do the bare minimum. So you do really have to, I think you have to really think about, well, what do you want to get out of this? If you want to earn a certain amount of money, or create or create something, it depends how big you want to create a business or whatever you want to do with it. You've got to have goals, and those goals don't just achieve themselves. You've got to keep working towards them. So if I think if it's important enough to you, it's just like with fitness goals. If it's important enough to you, you will do it. You will get up and get it done. That's the self-discipline. And again, it's one thing I say a lot to my clients is we don't rely on motivation, because motivation will not get you to the gym every time. I have days where I'm not motivated. That's when you have to tap into the self-discipline and be like, actually, I don't really want to do this today, but I'm going to go do it anyway. So I think that kind of applies to quite a lot of situations. Oh,
completely. I think it can apply to everything. And again, we've spoken a lot about this on previous episodes of the little habits that you create, or even just, taking that decision away so that your clothes are laid out in the morning. So when you get up, you can just put them on, rather than, it's another thing that your brain has to process and decide what to do. Just make it as easy.
Absolutely.
Or, what did we say before? Make it hard to fail.
Yeah.
Do
I like
everything
that.
you can. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one of my previous guests said that, and I was like, I really like that. I'm going to do
Yeah.
everything that I can to stop. But with that, then, like you said, some days you work 10 hours, some days you work like a little bit less. How do you create that work-life balance or that divide? Like, or do you?
I guess for me, it's always, I love working. I really do. But the job I had when I first qualified as a personal trainer, and I said that I worked for another online coach, look, it was an amazing experience and I have so much to thank her for. But I had over 200 clients to manage by myself. That's mental. Like, anyone that maybe works in the industry will understand that that is a ridiculous amount of workload. It's too much. Like, it's not possible to help that many people in the best possible way. But that sort of meant that we had to work 7 days a week. And I think I kind of got to a point where I just thought that was normal. And I thought that, working in this industry just means you work 7 days a week. But the relationship I was in at the time, it was really affecting that. But more importantly, it was just affecting me. I started resenting the job and I was exhausted. And I did definitely get burnout to the point where I was just like crying all the time. I was tired all the time. I was snappy. I didn't even recognize myself. So when I eventually decided to leave, because that just wasn't a way I wanted to be or work, I made it very kind of clear to myself that in order to be the best coach I can be to my clients, I need to also have my downtime. And I need to practice what I preach to my clients. I say to them all the time, like, have time to yourself, look after yourself, look after your mental well-being. So the last thing I would want to do is work myself to the bone 7 days a week and take that out on my clients because I'm not happy. If I'm happy, I'm a better coach to them. So yeah, I was very clear that I was going to work 5 days a week. It's definitely not 9 till 5, but that's okay because I don't mind. I can take a couple of hours off in the middle of the day and go to the gym, get my content or whatever I'm doing. And then if I have to work a little bit into the evening, that's fine. But yeah, really important for me to have some time off. And also, it's not fair on my partner, you know, we want to go and spend lovely weekends together. And that was something I noticed before, even if I was taking an hour off over the weekend, it's always in the back of my mind, I should be doing work. And I just don't really think that's a way to live.
No,
like I created this lifestyle for myself so that I could have the flexibility and enjoy my life a bit more. So why would I not?
Yeah, no, that does not sound like a way to live. And I think it's really important that you recognise that, especially going into your own business as well. Because I think sometimes there's like a bit of like a hustle culture, I guess, of like, you've got to be working 24/7 to make it, to be successful, whatever that success looks like to you. And I think it's so important to recognise that success can be different things to different 100%. People. So you could be working 7 days a week because your success might be reaching X amount of money, but your success sounds more also like you've got that balance of spending time with people you care about, not letting yourself get burnt out, being the best coach to your clients as well. So it's creating that like your success.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think that's something that I've really not battled with, but really had to think hard about over my 20s is, what does success actually mean to me? And you've just listed it there. Like, yes, money is great, but family is even better. And that, for me, success is being able to love what I do, and I do, make enough money to not necessarily just get by, but to not have to worry too much. But more important than all of that is to be able to spend time with the people I love. And that might sound strange to some people, but I'm very, very close with my family, and I would much rather get to the end of my life and sort of have all these experiences and lovely memories than just say, oh yeah, I was able to buy this, that and that, but I never saw my family. And that is something I have really struggled with. Like, do I want to grow this into something massive and have loads of employees and cool, yeah, that would make me loads more money, but would I be happier? I don't know that I would, because then I have to manage people and worry about what they're doing. Right now, I don't have to worry about anything but my clients and myself, obviously in the work capacity, I mean. And and I'm actually quite happy. So I think it's very hard to not get caught up in wanting more.
Yeah.
But I just don't know if all those things would actually make me happy. I don't think I need the most flashy car or house, or just don't really need those things. So, yeah.
No, I like that, because I think, as you said, sometimes we don't hear that side. It's always like you've got to strive to get the absolute maximum, like financially, I guess. But actually, I think everyone is being a bit more honest about kind of what life, like happiness, means to them, and what actually is important to them. And it doesn't just have to be that, because we all know that money doesn't buy happiness. It does to some extent. Like stability, obviously, I think is such a huge thing to feel that security. But I should say that flashy car, and again, we've spoken about it on this podcast. We've had people that have bought flashy cars and given them back, because they're like, actually didn't make me happy. So that's not.
And the trouble is, it's sort of you could very easily get into a mindset of, I want more, I want more, I want more. I love my parents to death, but I hope my mum doesn't listen to this. She probably will. But I think they are quite like that. Like, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? What's the next thing? And as great as that is, I don't think I want that for myself. And I would say I'm very driven, and I do always think, like, what's the next goal? What is the next thing? But I just don't want to lose myself in doing that.
Exactly, because that drive, like we just said, that drive doesn't have to be that financial side. That drive for you sounds like it's also being able to be in control of your day and your time and your hours. And that's enough to have a drive to be like, actually, I want to keep doing this and work hard for this.
Absolutely. And just make what I've got as best as it can possibly be. If that grows in the process, amazing. I have goals to bring my partner in, and for it to be kind of our thing that we're building. But right now I'm sort of just really focusing on making what I've got really, really good.
Yeah. And how important do you think it's been that your own experience with like fitness and health and everything has gone into that?
Yeah, massively. I think it's very hard to coach people through something that you haven't lived yourself. So, I've set myself different goals, like doing a photo shoot, where that was great, but also I got very caught up in, I think, strangely, I sort of got to a point where I thought, in order to be a kind of respected coach, I needed to look a certain way, have a visible six pack and have loads and loads of muscle and all of this stuff. But actually, people don't care about that. My clients want realistic results. A lot of my clients will come to me and say, I had a coach before, but they were so strict and trying to push me down a path that I actually didn't want to go down. I just want something that works for me. I can still take the kids to school. I can still hang out with the family. I can still eat dinner with the family in the evening. Then you come to the right place, because although I don't have kids, I want to make this work for you. So yeah, I've gone through different phases in my own fitness journey, but obviously I have to practice what I preach. And that also comes under the whole balance is a big part of my coaching, and that's because I have a balanced lifestyle. Like, I am the biggest foodie you'll ever meet. Normally when me and my partner go on trips away, it's all about the food. We're planning every single food spot, and if my clients come to me and say, oh, I'm going away, I'm a little bit worried, I just go and have a good time. Like, you only live once, have a good time, come back, and then we'll get straight back on plan. So I think people can relate to me quite well, and they just realise that I'm just a normal person as well.
Yeah, because you did a post about like your mindset change from chasing the scales to chasing happiness. Like, talk us through a bit of that, like, mindset shift.
Yeah, so that was a period when I was doing that photo shoot, which I would never regret. I loved it. It was amazing. But it's funny, I look back at the photos now and I think, I remember the day really vividly. I'd been working for months to get to this goal, which I don't know where along the journey I somehow said to myself, I've got to have a six pack for this photo shoot, which is not a good mindset. Like, having a visible six pack means nothing. It's great, but for most people, it's very unachievable. People who just have one, it's genetics probably. They don't hold body fat there. For most people, that's very hard to achieve and very unsustainable to maintain. But I somehow got it in my head that I wanted a six pack, and I just went down a bit of a rabbit hole with it. I just was doing more and more and more, and it really affects your relationship with food, your relationship with exercise. I mean, I'll never say never, but I don't think I would ever do a bodybuilding competition, because that photo shoot obviously was nothing like doing a bodybuilding show, but we pushed it to, I had a coach at the time, and he almost said to me, like, we're going to treat it as if it is one. We're really going to push you. And I wanted to be pushed, and I'm glad I did it, but I really sacrificed my happiness for that. And on the day, I didn't even enjoy it. I was so miserable. I was so miserable on the day. I remember looking at the photos and being like, hate them, hate them, hate them. I was so horrible to myself.
Yeah.
And by the end, I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, let's just go. Which is so sad because I worked so hard towards it. But and I think like I've done photo shoots with my clients where we've just had the best time. We're just having fun. So being my leanest and the lowest scale weight was certainly not my happiest time. I'd say I'm the happiest now where I don't really have a specific goal. I'm just eating to fuel my body and training in a way that feels good. And yeah, that seems to be where I'm much happier. So it's really good to have goals, of course it is, but don't, put yourself into a really dark place to achieve it, because you might find that actually it doesn't make you happy in the end anyway.
Yeah, it's so true, because you touched on it earlier. Like, we have, especially our generation, been brought up with this diet culture of like, I remember growing up in like the TV adverts, like eat 2 bowls of Special K every day and then you'll lose weight. It's like, what the hell? Like, as if that was preached to us. And I remember thinking that, being in like high school, thinking, oh my God, maybe I'll just eat Special K for my lunch or for my dinner when I get home. Like, my mum would not have let me just eat Special K for dinner, thank God. But I remember thinking that, and that's what we've been brought up with, and like these magazines, and now social media's come into it. And I sometimes think we're lucky that we haven't grown up in that generation below, where social media is so involved in their lives already. But it is changing that narrative, and seeing that, you were miserable when you were doing that photo shoot because you were probably hungry and your energy was probably low, and you were probably...
I couldn't sleep. I literally didn't sleep at all. I was drinking like 5 litres of water. So I was getting up for a wee in the middle of the night like 5 times. This is so bad, but I remember waking up first thing in the morning, and the first thing I would do, it's actually so sad to think of myself like this because I've never been like this before ever. I'd wake up first thing in the morning and I'd look at my stomach and be like, is it still flat? Like, is it still flat? Yeah. That's awful. I can't believe I allowed that to happen. But it does, because you get on this thing and you just keep chasing the lower, skinnier, whatever it is. And yeah, it's not great. And our parents grew up with a lot of that diet culture, which then got put onto us. And it is changing, I think, and I hope. But again, a lot of my clients have tried every single diet under the sun. And there's a reason why they come to me and say none of it's worked. It doesn't sit well with me, some of these, don't get me wrong, some of the diets work really, really well for some people. They're not always maintainable, but they do work really well for some people. But it's the ones where like food is sins. I just... like, can we not? There's no bad foods. Like, there is obviously foods that we should have more of and less of, but to call a food a sin and to get that in your head that like pasta is like however many sins it is, I just really don't like that
all the time.
Yeah,
isn't it?
Just that negative connotation. I just don't like it.
Yeah, no, it's so true. And I hope now, and I do think it is becoming more about lifestyle and education. And just, I've even seen in myself, just trying to educate myself a bit more of like, actually what is good for me, or how much protein I should be having, or, just learning a bit more, because there is so much information out there. Sometimes there's almost too much and you're like, where do I start? But following people like yourself and seeing content online, then you actually can... find out more information and actually just kind of change the narrative around
and if you can actually get a coach, even better, because they will help you specifically with what's right for you, because loads of my clients will say it's such a minefield, I don't know where to start. I'm like, right, let's start at the beginning. What do you need? And then that you've got help that's for you. So that can be really useful. But.
Yeah, so true. And I wanted to touch on a little bit, just because I love running myself and I'm a big runner, but I saw that you recently did a half marathon and you got into running a little bit. Talk us through that, or if it's just was a one-off. And also I'm interested to see kind of how your training changed, or your nutrition, your recovery, kind of all around that.
Oh my gosh, everything changed. Why did no one tell me about running? This might sound really strange coming from a fitness coach, but running's never been something that I've really been into. I probably went on 3 or 4 runs in lockdown, because obviously that was all we could do. And my partner at the time loved running. So I went on a few runs, but I couldn't get it. I couldn't understand how you could go on one run and have the best time and then go on another one and just feel like you're dying. So it was never something that I really loved. It's always been the gym for me. That's just my thing. I like lifting weights, and I do cardio, but I'll do it in the gym, and that's not for everyone either. But in May of this year, my mum got diagnosed with breast cancer, which hit the family obviously very, very hard. She's doing well now, bless her. She's got her last chemo next week. We're going to ring that bell very loud. But yeah, I don't know what came over me, but I was just driving home from seeing her one day, and I just looked at my partner and I was like, we've got to do something. I don't know why I'm like that. I just can't not do something, even though it really is not really doing much. But I was like, why don't we do something to raise money? You know, I physically can't do anything to help my mum. Like, I've just got to hope to God that the chemo works. What else can I do? So I was like, oh, why don't we start running? Why don't we do a 10K? Actually, no, not a 10K. Let's do a half marathon. And my partner Callum was like, huh? You hate running. I was like, I know, but let's just challenge ourselves and let's raise money for cancer research. I don't know what I was thinking, but I think it was probably giving me something to focus on, other than, because my mum is literally my best friend. I love her so much. We're so close. So it gave me something to focus on. It made me feel like I was doing something in a time where I felt very, very helpless. So yeah, I just signed us both up. And much to my partner's despair, he hates running as well. But I was like, I'm not doing this on my own. So we did it together, and my brother-in-law does like Ironmans and triathlons. I think he's actually doing one this weekend. So he sort of gave us a bit of a structure to follow with it. So we obviously started with like a 5K, and basically from there we started running 3 times a week. The half marathon was set for October, and this was like end of May. So we had a good amount of time. But as I said, we're not runners. We might be strong in the gym, but we are not runners at all. I think we've even said on our own podcast, our bodies just aren't built for running. Like, if you go back to a few of the episodes, we've literally said that. So yeah, we just started doing three runs a week. We'd do an easy run, like a tempo run, and then we'd do a long run. So we were building up the distance every week. And yeah, do you know what? I did surprise myself. I did really start liking running. That really surprised me. But it got to a point where, you know, you're running 16 kilometres, 18 kilometres on the weekend. I was just
tired.
I used to dread it. I kind of enjoy it, but also at the same time, kind of was looming over me the whole weekend that I had this long run coming up. And then you're thinking, right, I need to make sure I eat with enough time because I don't want to get a stitch. I need to warm up. I need to stretch. Then you're out running for about 2 hours. You come home, you're exhausted. And it's like, all right, the weekend's done now. And I was worrying about that all weekend. So yeah, we did it. We completed it in the time that we wanted, which was great. But I wouldn't say... I did enjoy it, but I just didn't have a great run, unfortunately. On the day of the half marathon, I was in pain the whole way round. From the minute we crossed that start line, I was in pain to the finish. I don't know why. My hip flared up because we were so cold. So it wasn't a great run, but we raised over £3,000 for cancer research. So, you know, whether that, obviously it will help, but it's something. And I'm really, really proud of us. I'm really glad we did it. I really like setting challenges, and that, even though a half marathon is probably nothing to some people, for us it was a really big deal. Challenge. Yeah, it was a really big challenge for us. But to answer your question, it massively changed our training because I don't know about anyone else, but my body definitely got used to running, but I always had some sort of niggle. I always had, like, maybe my foot was hurting, my hip, or, as I say, I've just always thought my body isn't built for running because it's so painful. So I'd go into the gym and try and do my normal sessions, and I couldn't. Like, my body was too tired. My knee would hurt, my hip would hurt. Oh God, I was just like, it was exhausting. So it kind of got to the point where my gym sessions were more of just like a sanity thing, just going and getting it done rather than enjoying it or working towards anything in particular. It became all about the running. So I'm quite glad the run is over and I can now get back to the gym. Yeah. And my goal can be to get strong again. So yeah, I don't know why, but
one soon.
Yeah, I mean, everyone keeps saying, "Oh, would you do another one?" And I'm like, maybe ask me in like 6 months when I've forgotten about the pain. I might then do another one. I don't think I would sign up willingly. The fact that it was for charity kind of got me through.
Yeah, and also you don't have to, like, just because running is like a new craze that everyone's doing, it doesn't have to be
I know.
everyone.
It's funny because I do feel like I feel really crazy to say, oh, I've done all that training and then am I just not going to run anymore? But it's just not something that I love. I love the gym and that's what I want to put my time into. That's what I want to prioritize. You never know. Now I haven't got that pressure looming over me of a half marathon. I might just feel like going out for a nice run, you know, with no pressure of timings or not getting injured because you've got the race coming up. So we'll see.
Yeah. Oh, well, I really hope your mum is doing well. And like,
thank you.
Wish her all of my best. It's amazing that she's finished her chemo and you can ring that bell and that you did that as well. Like I had a similar thing when my nan was sick and she also had cancer, and at the hospice that cared for her, I was like, I just have to do something. But I went like a bit more crazy, and I literally had done like a 5K months ago, and I was like, I'm just going to do the marathon. I'm going to do London Marathon.
Love that.
And then I'd gone from like 0 to 100, and yeah.
Did you do it?
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
And I've gone on to do another one since.
Wow.
And I just was like, I need to do something.
That's
like I
so
have
amazing.
to do something to try and help and to give back to this amazing charity that have helped us.
Yeah.
What can I do?
Yeah.
And then, I don't know why I didn't just do a half. I was like, I just had something in me and I was like, I'm going to do London. I'm from London. It will be amazing.
I don't know how you did that.
And I just did it.
Honestly, like when I finished that finish line, the half marathon, me and my boyfriend were just like, how do people do double? How is someone now going to do that again?
It's a crazy mindset because I've also felt that. I've done like a half since and I still felt that. It's your training changes so much that you get to the point where you're training past half and you get to the point where you're like, oh, I'm just doing a half marathon today, which sounds crazy.
No, that's so true. Yeah.
Sounds crazy. And like when I say that, I'm like, what are you saying? You sound like such an ass. But it's so true because your training builds up.
Yeah. And in your head, you're already preparing yourself that actually I've got to do double that. Or,
exactly.
you know, when you're doing a half marathon, you know it's 21 kilometres.
So when you're train for.
Yeah, when you're at 16, you're like, we've not got that long to go. But if you were doing a whole marathon, you'd be like, cool, we're halfway now. Let's, you just get yourself prepared for that.
And your training schedules are different. So it is possible because I did it somehow.
I don't think there's any better feeling, is there, though, than crossing that finish line.
Yeah.
Marathon, half marathon, whatever it is, that feeling, I could potentially be swayed to do something else because when I saw that finish line, I don't think I pushed myself enough in my day-to-day life to be really proud of myself. And I was really proud of myself in that moment.
It's something to be so proud of. Like, you should be.
You should be.
Thank you. It's so incredible to do. And I think when you do those events and there's so many people around you and a lot of people have their stories or why they're running or their reasons. And it's just such like an incredible thing to be part of. And it doesn't have to be a marathon. It can be something less or it can be like a high rocks thing, or I know there's like
that might be the next
battle
goal.
Cancer, like which are kind of like
really?
high rocks type events. I think. Don't get me wrong.
I need to look into that.
Saw it on Instagram. It's like a fitness challenge.
Nice.
So it's not running, and so there's all different things.
Yeah. If you're raising money for charity, just fair play to you. It's amazing.
Exactly. But I think
anything
that feeling of like you've done something or that joy and give it back a little bit is
100%.
So fair play. And so I wanted to ask you because kind of coming towards the end, but
been chatting too much, haven't I?
No, not at all. I love it. Honestly, when time flies by, it's the best way to be.
Good.
You don't want to be sitting here like
watching the clock.
Yeah, well, luckily I've actually never had to do that.
Okay, good.
You don't want to be in that position. But looking back at your life now, like, do you think it is where you thought it'd be?
Oh, gosh, it's such a hard question because do you ever really know? I don't know. I guess probably not. No. And I also think that's from work perspective, but also personal life. You know, when you're younger and you're like, oh, by 27, I'll definitely be married with kids. And then you get to 27 and you're like, oh my gosh, no, I'm actually really young still. So probably not. No. And I've had a lot of things in my 20s. I think your 20s are so, like, you learn so much about yourself and what you want out of life and who you want to spend it with. And, you know, I've been in and out of like long-term relationships, had 2 long-term relationships, both in my 20s that ended really traumatically. And you learn a lot from that. And I genuinely think from like a personal point of view, I've never been in a position where I feel like I know myself as much as I do now, like what I want out of life, what is okay and not okay in relationships, and what I want to get out of life, and what I want to build with my business. But no, I definitely didn't think I'd be here. Definitely not. Yeah. But I'm happy that I am.
Oh. And my final question I ask all of my guests is, if you could go back to the beginning of your 20s, knowing everything you have now, what would be the piece of advice that you would give to yourself?
I think I would say, firstly, just do it. Say yes to opportunities. I think I spent a lot of time there once upon a time I would have said no to this podcast because I would have been too scared I do struggle a lot with imposter syndrome. Like when you asked me, I was like, why would she want me to come on? I've not done anything that impressive. But oh my gosh, I keep knocking this. You would not know I have my own podcast, knocking this microphone. I would say any opportunity that comes your way, just do it. Do things that scare you. And I'd also just say, don't worry, because things will work themselves out. And I'd say my life motto is everything happens for a reason. So everything that's happened in my 20s, good and bad, I feel like, it sounds a bit cliche, but it got me to where I am today. And I just think you've got to ride those ups and downs, because you will learn from it and it will make you stronger. So just go for it. Say yes to things. Don't be scared. It will all work itself out in the end.
Oh, I love that. And I always feel that as well. Like, it will figure itself out. Like, you probably felt that when you got made redundant. What the hell am I going to do? And now look where you are. Yeah. So everything happens for a reason.
Absolutely. And what's that saying? If it feels like the end, it's not. If it doesn't feel right now, it's not the end. I'm absolutely butchered that. I can't remember the saying, but it's something like, it's not the end if it's not. So you just got to kind of keep going, because you will get there eventually.
So true.
Yeah, don't quote me on that. That's not actually the quote.
I know what you're trying to say. I can't think of it either. Yeah. Oh, maybe I'll Google it after.
Yeah.
So if anyone wants to follow you, or you mentioned you have your own podcast as well, like where can they find you?
So you can find me on Instagram. My Instagram is lovelucyfit, and that's where I mainly spend most of my time. Me and my partner also have a podcast called That Gym Couple Podcast, and it's on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, every streaming platform really. I think that's pretty much it. I mean, my company is called Love Lucy Online Coaching, but if you head to my Instagram, you can read all about it there.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I've loved this so
me.
much. And thank you for being my final guest for the time being.
I know, please don't stop.
No, we will be back. Just going to have a little break for a while we relocate to Australia. So next time we see you, we'll probably be in Australia. So thank you for listening, and thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. Please continue to like, subscribe, share, and follow us on socials. See you next week for another episode.